Hi, this is Jim and Jason at Hearthstone, and today we're going to be showing you how to change the baffles in several of our wood burning products. Firstly, we're going to talk a little bit about the baffle itself. And the secret to combustion is time, temperature, and turbulence. The baffle increases the time in the stove by creating a longer smoke path. The baffle increases the temperature at the secondary air tubes by insulating the firebox. The baffle supports turbulence as the products of combustion pass over the secondary air pipes, and they have a rust surface to assist in this process. These baffles are made of a special high temperature material called C-cast. It was specially developed for Hearthstone. It can easily withstand temperatures of over 2300 degrees Fahrenheit, but like the delicate belly of a space shuttle, it can be easily damaged if handled or hit by wood, chimney brushes, or other impact items. We're going to start today by changing the baffle in the Heritage. The only tool you're going to need is the needle nose pliers. This is the same process that will be used on both the Heritage, Tribute, and the larger Equinox stove. We're going to begin by demonstrating this on the Heritage, but the procedure is the same on all three. The baffle is held in place by two stainless steel cotter pins that are pushed through the middle secondary air tube inside the firebox. To remove the baffle, you're going to need to either twist those off, twist them until they break, or straighten them and push them up into the top of the baffle and pull them up from the top with the flue removed. And that's what we're going to do, push them right up through into the top. To demonstrate this process, we've taken the top stones out of the stove and the flue collar is disconnected. Jason will now remove the cotter pins. And now we're going to replace the baffle. You reach into the firebox, lift up the back end of the baffle, and push it back slightly until it clears the front tube. Now it'll come out between the first and second burner tubes and right out the firebox. Here's the replacement baffle. You can see it has a little indentation along the front edge. This is the front. This will sit down on the front baffle support inside the stove. We send it with another stainless steel bracket and two stainless steel wires for ease of installation. These will be tied off on the secondary burn tube, the middle tube, to hold the baffle in place so it's never knocked into your wood as it's jostled around. And now we'll install the baffle into the stove, slide it up between the first and second burner tubes again until it goes far enough back to drop down, and then it drops right in place. Once the baffle's in place, you just tie off the wire to the middle secondary air pipe, like that. And now we're going to show you how to change the baffle in the Craftsbury model. We've removed the front door for purposes of demonstration. With a 10mm socket, you can remove the two nuts that are holding the top casting to the stove. These bolts are on the outside of the stove, fully accessible. And now you can lift the top off the stove and set it aside so you can have access to the baffle. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver to remove the baffle support in the stove. Remove the baffle support in the original baffle. And the baffle has a front edge that's got an indentation. Put that back in place. I have to slide the baffle under the baffle support. It's a very tender material. And then replace Phillips screws. There may be a little cement in these areas that you may want to have to chip away with a hammer and flat screwdriver just to remove the original baffle. It's not needed to be put back in place on the new baffle. Before you reinstall the top casting, check to make sure your gasket is still in good condition. If it's compressed, hard, or crumbling, you may want to replace it. Now we can replace the top right back onto the stove just as we removed it. Replace the nuts. Now we're going to show you how to replace the baffle in the Clydesdale model. The tools required for this stove will be the 7/16 socket, a 5/32 Allen wrench, and a stubby Phillips screwdriver. To gain access to the secondary air manifold and baffle, you'll have to remove the 3 retention bars that are holding the refractory stone in place in the firebox. You'll do this with a 7/16 inch socket, as Jason will demonstrate. Okay, the bolts don't have to be removed entirely. Once they're loosened, the slotted bracket can be lifted up and out of the stove, like such. Perfect. As you remove the stones, note their position, as some of these stones have a little bit different dimension. The side stones you can see have an angled top, a taller one in the front, slightly shorter in the back. Taller. The 3 stones in the rear are all uniform. Now to remove the secondary manifold, you'll first have to remove the socket head bolts in the back of the stove that it's resting on with a 5/32 Allen wrench. Now to change the baffle, you're going to have to remove the secondary air manifold, and to do this you want to lift up on the front of it and pull it slightly forward towards yourself. It'll drop into the base of the firebox. Now with the manifold in the firebox, you'll remove the 4 screws that hold the retaining brackets to access the baffle. With the screws removed, you can now lift off the 2 retaining brackets. Now you can lift the baffle straight up and out of the manifold for replacement. For installation, just reverse the process. Okay, with the new baffle installed in the secondary air manifold, we'll have to lift it up so that it hooks onto the side ribs and into the rear sockets and locks in place. Use the palms of your hands under the secondary air pipe so you don't puncture the fragile baffle. Replace the 2 socket head screws that hold the manifold with a 5/32 Allen wrench. And finally, replace the refractory stone in the firebox. These are the rear stones. And the side stone, shorter one to the back. Go. And now replace the stone retainers and tighten them down with a 7/16 socket. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your Hearthstone stove.